Welcome once more, Carole Bew from the Women's Bookshop. Now, what absorbing reading do you have for us this week?
Well, this is fabulous. This is a teenage novel, but I mean, I loved it at my age, as I do with many really good teenage novels. The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. Now, John Green is very well known as a writer for young adults. He wrote a very famous book called Looking for Alaska and An Abundance of Catherines, and then also a wonderful gay novel called Will Grayson, which he wrote with David Levithan. David Levithan wrote the gay Will Grayson, and John Green wrote the straight Will Grayson. It was a wonderful novel. So he's very clever.
And I see this is a #1 New York Times bestseller.
Yeah, and I understand why. I mean, it's desperately sad, but it's totally inspiring. It's about teenagers with cancer. All the teens in this book have got cancer, and that's how they know each other. So one of them goes blind, one of them has had, because he's had cancer in his eyes, one of them has had his leg amputated because he had bone cancer. They're all 16 and 17-year-olds. The main girl is Hazel, is just inspiring. Now, she has originally had thyroid cancer and now has lesions in her lungs, and her lungs keep filling up with fluid. So she spends her entire time walking around with an oxygen machine with her all the time on wheels and tubes going into her nostrils. And that's just how she is. She is, you know, accompanied by her oxygen machine all the time.
This sounds like such a hard topic. I mean, you know, somebody pushes a book at me and says this is about teenagers with cancer. I think, oh no, I don't want to read that.
I wept. I did weep, but it's funny and it's inspiring. They're such brilliant kids, and they're so realistic about life, and it's quite philosophical in lots of ways. There's this wonderful, wonderful romance that he handles beautifully in it, this relationship between two of the main characters, Hazel, the girl with the oxygen machine, and Augustus, who's the boy who's had his leg amputated. And it's just beautifully, tenderly done. I mean, one of the things that he explores, for example, is that Hazel is unsure about getting too involved with Augustus because she knows she's going to die, and she thinks, I'm like a grenade. When I die, I'm going to explode into other people's lives and cause such pain and havoc for them. It's going to be bad enough for my parents, and the parents are wonderful in this novel, but it'd be terrible for Augustus. And in fact, yeah, it's fascinating what happens. There's a bit of a reversal in some ways.
No, of course, it's all incredibly real, isn't it? I mean, there'll be New Zealand families coping with this sort of thing as we speak. Yes.
There's a wonderful wry sense of humour in it. Hazel in particular, she's very smart and has a very wry outlook on the world, and she's quite funny, which is why Augustus falls for her. There's another novel that deals with the same thing by Jenny Downham called Before I Die, which is about a teenage girl, and it's written entirely from her point of view, and she wants to live life, like take drugs, break the law, have sex, do all sorts of things before she dies, and she does it all in a very, very short time. And that's equally inspiring. So I think these clever writers are capturing a very true experience and writing it for people like us in a way that we can understand it, and we weep, but we also laugh, and we think about our own mortality, and we philosophize about life, and I found it inspiring, The Fault in Our Stars.
And given its obvious commercial success, they're also capturing mighty big audiences too, aren't they?
I think it's wonderful. John Green is a superb writer, so I highly recommend this for adults as well as for teens.
Thank you so much, Carole Bew.